Well, hello everybody and welcome back to another film. You find me travelling by bicycle this afternoon to get to my location. If you watched last time's video, you'll know that I'm on the island of Iona and there's no cars allowed on the island, so I'm making my way to tonight's location on two wheels. And I'm going to stop talking right now because I've just got to a really big hill. So, whereas my last video was in the north part of the island, tonight's video is down on the southwest side, on a place not far from a bay that's known as St. Columba's Bay. I'm not used to this. Talking and cycling at the same time is not easy, especially when you're going uphill. Ordinarily, I don't think I'd be puffing quite so badly, but I've got my enormous backpack on the back, plus tripod, and my main tripod strapped to the crossbar. I couldn't even think what it's called. Not far to go now, and then I can relax. Things you do for photography, eh? What a difference a bike can make to a journey like that. In previous years I have walked it and it's a good half an hour with all the gear, which in hiking terms isn't that far, but if you can do it in 10 minutes you just can't beat it. So let me just show you where I'm going. So St. Columba's Bay is just out of shot over to the right. I'm first going to head to the beach directly in front, which is, for the most part, I think, is all shingle rocks. And I'm really quite interested in looking at what sort of rock shape patterns, pebble abstracts I can get. So I'm going to head there first and then get the bag off and have a bit of a rest, and then start to have a bit of a search round to see what I can find. Now, I don't know if you can make them out, but right over there, a little red dot, is Ruth and Willow. I was invited on that run, but I declined. But yeah, they're just on the way back, having run from the hotel. And bless her, Willow, she was up with me this morning, up on the top of Dunny, which is the tallest hill on the island. So she's already been out once a day, and now she's doing probably something like a 7k run this afternoon. Mind you, given the amount of treats I've been giving her this holiday, it's probably just as well, really. So finally here, and just look at all those pebbles. Beautiful, rounded, weather-worn pebbles, all different colours, shapes and sizes. I really shouldn't be stuck for a composition in this little lot. So I could be on a bit of a slippery slope here. I've seen something that I really like, but it's not good enough for a photograph. I'll just show you what I found. So just as an example, first of all, you can see here that there's lots of kelp that's dried on the pebbles, kelp stalks or stems. And just over here, if I can move you without making you feel too dizzy, we've got this lovely single one here. It is in the shape of a number 2, and you've got a lovely S-curve going on. The problem with this is that the surroundings that would complement the frame are just not nice enough to really pull all this together. That in itself is lovely. The single pebble in the middle, this one down here is lovely, but the surrounding pebbles I don't think make for a great composition to create the frame around the main subject. And that's the problem I've got now. Now I've got that in my head, nothing else will do. So I'm going to give it 10 or 15 minutes to see if I can come up with something similar, and if not, I'll just have to move on. Remarkably, I've found one that I like. Whether it meets with my ultimate expectations, probably not, if I can get there without falling over. Right, I've marked it with my phone. I'll just turn the camera around. So it is just literally, where are we? Here. Now then, it's just past my phone actually. Excuse the crackling. So this is what I found. This sort of snakes round these rocks here and then disappears off to the bottom left. I'm thinking something along the lines of that, where the stem enters in the bottom and snakes out and goes up through the top. Now, you're viewing this in the landscape format, but I will be taking it as a portrait. So let's get that all lined up. So I've got my image, and as you can see, I'm using the linen cloth that I carry in my bag all the time. Ideal for scenarios such as this, when I don't have a complete veil of soft light above me. I've got broken clouds, which is sort of, sometimes it's soft, sometimes it's a bit more harsh, and this just helps to balance it all through each exposure, because this is in fact a focus stack. And I've focus stacked about 4, maybe 5 times, and I'm pulled out just a little bit more than I need to be, just to allow for that focus breathing. And it's similar, well, the exact same as I've said before when I've been doing things like leaves, is that I just start with the highest point and zoom to 100% on the back of the camera, and then just select places as I move through the scene. I don't use autofocus stacking, I do it all manually, as I find, well, I'm saying I find this is what gets me best results. I don't have automatic focus stacking in this camera, so this is all I've got available to me. But even when I have had cameras, I prefer to do it this way. It just feels more like I'm in full control and I'm getting exactly what I want in the right places. I'll quickly try and show you on the back of the camera the composition. It's not going to be easy because it's quite bright. So hopefully you can see that well enough to get an idea of the composition before I show you the final shot. So what I've been really careful to do is with the composition, because it can be a bit confusing because you've got 2 competing elements. You've got the S-curve of the kelp stalk, and you've got these 3 main rocks, which are my main anchor for the image. And I've positioned these so they run from bottom right across the diagonal to top left, and then you've got, like I said, the kelp stem snaking through them, and then you've got some nice boulders surrounding the outside, which is just helping to frame the composition. It doesn't look cluttered, it looks ordered, and it's exactly what I was looking for. So I shall put that on, I was going to say now, but there's your settings: f16, 100 ISO and a 30th of a second, and of course I'm using my soft linen cloth just to soften and diffuse the light. So I'll put that on now. So with that one firmly in the bag, I think it came out all right. It certainly isn't a world beater by any standards, but it was the best that I could find of the idea that I had in my mind. I'm now heading towards the other one. I'm just literally following my footsteps to the point at which they stopped. Here we go. I can see the scene now, and it is as I remember it, and it's just as good. It hasn't changed at all in the time that I've been photographing the other one. So that there is what I've got in mind. You see those lovely sand patterns and that beautiful complementary coloured rock just forming the base of the image. And I think I'm going to go diagonal, something along the lines of that, so that the sand trails or sand patterns almost look like flames coming off of the rock. You could say it's like a meteorite, or maybe that's just my imagination, but I'm going to go for an angle like that with the rock bottom left and all those lovely sand patterns going off towards the top right. And again, another strong diagonal composition. Right, let's get into it. So what I do need to do is I need to change lenses, because that one over there was taken with a macro lens. This one is taken, is going to need a more wide angle lens. Actually, that's not a good idea. This is where you need a sensor shield, which I haven't got. So I'll put this down, it's a bit drier over here, and get my 45 to 85 out and just put this in place of that macro lens. There we go. Pop that back in there, and that should give me enough coverage for what I need. So I've got the camera positioned as far over the composition as possible, and if you can look at the position of where the sensor plane would be, it's not quite in alignment with the beach. That leg is very precarious, and the camera is just teetering on the point at which it would topple over forwards if it was to go over any further. So I can't actually get it directly over the composition. The tripod legs will spread out wider, fully extended, and I could get it over that way, but the problem is that the tripod is sinking into the sand all the time, and it's worse when the legs are splayed out for some reason. So it's a bit of a compromise, but I can get around that by doing a focus stack. And it's just a simple case of doing one for the top end and doing one for the bottom. I have taken one for the middle just as a banker, but I don't think I need it. F16 at that distance from the subject should be ample. In fact, it's probably ample in one frame, but I'm just doing the focus stack just to be on the safe side. Now, what I will say is that we've lost a bit of light, and what I would have liked would be a bit of directional sunlight just to emphasize those ridges on the composition. They're still pretty strong, I have to say, but they could be stronger, and I do wonder if there was some more directional sunlight glancing across them, it might have improved it. But with that comes more warm light, and I do like the monotone or slate grey feel that I've got as it stands right now. So the composition, as I said, is going to be something along the lines of that. I've got to be careful not to include that. There's a bit of weed just sticking out there that unfortunately I've got to live with, so I have to just crop just that out ever so slightly, but something along the lines of that. So I'll put that on now. I have found my last image of the day, and what a little gem it is too. The beach is literally a treasure trove of images. I wished I had come here earlier in the week. So just down here at the side of this large slab of seaweed, delicate little tiny jewel is this here that looks like a tree. And I've got my 120mm macro lens on, and I'm just going to position that, excuse my wobbly filming, I'm just going to position it off to one side just to allow a bit of negative space to the left and frame it in the sand like that. That's the sort of thing that I really, really search hard to find. And I think it'll come out really well. it is just one of those rare finds where you just know that everything about it is absolutely spot on. And I say that because everything around it is pristine. The actual plant itself is pristine. The way it's shaped is beautiful. And there's nothing you can criticise about it. Arguably, we could have some different light, but I'm quite happy to take what I've got today with this lovely soft light. I think that complements this particular shot. So, in terms of setting, I'm going to go for the same as I've done with all the other shots. This is going to be f/16. It's not going to be a focus stack. I don't need to. I can get directly over the top of it. As I've said, 120mm macro lens. And as we speak, the shutter speeds are 13th of a second, f/16, 100 ISO. And I'm going to take a few different exposures, overexposing ever so slightly because we've got this light coloured sand and the camera's naturally wanting to underexpose it and bring it back to mid-tone. I think it's not much beyond mid-tone grey, but it is trying to make it darker than it actually is, so it's fooling the meter in just a slight amount. So I'll show you the composition quickly on the back of the camera and then I'll put the image on. So there's the scene. Now what I will say is that this camera is showing it on the LCD a little bit blue. It's not always the best representation on this camera on the back as I see it. I've currently got the white balance set to cloudy, but what I have got is, put that back, on the Pocket 3 I've got auto white balance set, so it's anybody's guess what the actual raw file is going to look like. Hopefully it's going to look like the mid-tone grey, but I do like that blue effect that we're getting there, that cool light, and I may opt for that in post-processing. So I'll put that on now. It really is times like this when I wish I had an alternative camera system. About 100 yards out is a great northern diver swimming just out from the coast. It's the first time I've seen a great northern diver ever on this trip. Amazing. Beautiful thing. I've actually just seen it surface again and I kid you not, I've got goose pimples. I wish I could show it you in detail. Anyway, I'm going to put the images on now. As always, thank you all ever so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe, give the video a nice big thumbs up and leave some comments below. Let me know what you think of today's images. So until next time, thank you again from Iona and I will see you in the next one. Bye for now.